welcome to the ADNA Presents. This is Roy Samuelson. Today we have Chad Allen joining us. He is part of Respectability Training Bureau as a disability consultant. He's a usability consultant and is working for video game companies. He's also a magician and the creator of Unseat. It is an honor to have met you and to have you on this podcast. Thanks for joining us, Chad.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Roy.
What do you love about audio description?
Oh my goodness, everything. I'm blind, so not having it versus having it has been a life-changing experience. I think it enhances our quality of life and gives us an opportunity to access the world in the way that we need to access it.
To see all the different ways that you've not only been an audience for audio description, but also created your own magic, literally. I saw in your email and also your website the link to some of the magic that you've performed. I think it was a YouTube video, the video that you shared there. Is there anything that you'd like to share about that?
Sure. Sometimes I get asked to perform magic for blind people, which is a unique challenge for some. Obviously, the repertoire of magic is somewhat limited in this capacity, but I think it's expanding every day. What I was asked to be part of was the Tommy Edison experience on YouTube. And he's a gentleman that describes kind of the day in the life of a blind person. So how does a blind person, match their socks in the dryer? How do we do this? How do we do that? And he gets all these questions from online, and then he presents them in a fun and cool and interesting way. So one time he was asked about experiencing magic. He originally thought it was impossible. The person that I was working with at the time, Misty Lee, basically emailed him and said, "I don't think you've met the right magician." And so he's like, okay, challenge accepted. And he flew out to Hollywood from the East Coast to come to the Magic Castle. Misty and myself performed magic. And that was a very interesting experience because it had to be a magic trick that I, as a blind person, could do. It had to be a magic trick that could be experienced by another blind person themselves, so non-visually. But at the same time, it needed to be a visual effect because it was appearing on YouTube. Interesting. And I love these kind of creative challenges. We worked out a couple ideas, and eventually I came up with passing a piece of rope through Tommy's neck. The cool part about it was the audience could see it, but he could feel it as it was happening. So if you guys get a chance, you can go to chadallenmagic.com and check that out.
That's so cool. And I love how those parameters that you were working within ended up working for all. That's this quote from Winston Marsalis, you can't improvise off of nothing, that you were able to take these challenges or opportunities, depending on how you look at it, and apply it in a way that everybody could experience this magic and still perform it and make it special and work. That kind of creativity and just creating okay, this is going to work for Tommy and the audience. And it was really great.
Yeah. I like that. I like the challenges. I like being able to, walk up to a blind person and say, "Hi, I'm a magician," and them being like, "Oh," and kind of already assuming that there's really nothing that I'm going to be able to do to entice them or to entertain them. And so when they get that experience of being misdirected, being, fooled, which is, the primary goal of a magician, but the work obviously exceeds that once you get to beyond the rudimentary level of what magic is. Entertaining and fun is obviously the first part of it. Having some sort of story that you tell, some sort of arc, but then being able to either audibly or tactually feel the magic happen, I think can be a very exciting experience for people, especially the first time.
With that fooling being an exciting story-driven entertainment, I think this is a great transition to the usability consultant in working with video game companies. That I can imagine as video game developers create their own stories and their own interactive experiences that they want to share, that by bringing in a blind person like yourself who has an expertise not only in magic but also understanding some of the other ins and outs of how audio description works, that this seems like a really great pairing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. I don't know if you intentionally did this or not, but I think it's an incredible lead in to be able to say the challenges of the Tommy Edison experience. To be able to apply it to something as complex as non-visual access to video games, I never put two and two together until just now. But that kind of thinking is so essential to the process. And I am so excited to be in this gaming space right now because I think that it is really those layers of challenges that it really is going to take a creative, somebody who understands the disability experience really well, somebody who understands technology and understands story and arc, that's really going to be able to align all these concepts together and make the video game experience not only accessible, but entertaining and fun.
Yeah, it seems like that's part of the magic itself within the video game side. So it makes the dots connect really clearly.
It's amazing. I never thought of that before because, I mean, people are always attracted to the idea of me being a magician. And I tell people all the time that when you study this stuff, it really changes how you think about things around you. Not to say that, I'm walking around with like super magic powers that, is above and beyond, what the natural realm can comprehend or anything ridiculous like that. But when you look at challenges, you see them in a different light. When you look at how to reveal or tell a story, and you're using the context of a magic trick and how that reveal takes place, there's a lot there. There's a rich mine to mine in that space. And it's a very universal mindset. You can really apply it to anything. So for the people that are out there, whether you're disabled or not, or if you've ever had an interest in magic, being able to just like absorb like a couple things, not to like take away from the mystery of it all, because I know that there's some people that are very apprehensive about learning magic because they want to just enjoy it. And I certainly appreciate those types of people. They want to preserve the mystery for themselves. And I think that's a beautiful thing, but for the people that are a little more curious or a little more inquisitive and you want to absorb this stuff, having a little thing, a little trinket, something in your pocket that you can share with people, physically, not through a phone or a computer or through other digital means, but in person, and to share with them something special like an illusion, I think is something everyone should experience.
I love that you brought up that mystery. I think about the experience I had as a kid growing up and watching magic and just praying, how do you do it? Teach me, teach me. I know there's something to it. How does it happen? And then now we've got so many videos that have, here's how the magic gets done. And some of them are really fascinating. And it's the sleight of hand and the work and professional skills that go into this effortless appearing thing. I'm experiencing twofold. You addressed both sides of this, the maintaining the mystery, in other words, just experiencing the magic as is, and then also peeling behind the curtain and seeing how the thing is being done or being explained to it, that I'm finding I'm really appreciating both. I'm both disappointed and bored by, oh, it's that simple, that's the trick, to, oh, wow, that's so cool. I had no idea how that happens, and I don't want to know. What it sounds like in all the aspects of your skills is that you are bringing that in a way that can share, hey, here's how your video game can be so much more accessible and better. And it's not that big of a leap. And then in other cases, it's something that, yeah, you need to spend a lot more time on this because it's really going to make a difference to people who are playing your game. Bringing it back to the skills that you bring, I'm not asking you to reveal any private information here, but I'm curious if there's anything that you'd love to share that really you're proud of, whether it's the usability consultant or the disability consultant, or maybe even in other magic. You mentioned Misty Lee, that here's this advocate, this other magician that you've worked with. And I'm curious how either working with others or you working with them, that people have been having that aha moment, that realization of, hey, I'm going to reveal this illusion to you and show you how you can do it better, or maybe even maintaining the illusion.
Well, I absolutely love working with others. I think collaborative art making is some of the most exciting things that I do. Another reason why I love the gaming space so much is nobody does this alone. And
Mm.
so you're always collaborating, you're always brainstorming, you're always bouncing ideas off of a room and finding that consensus, that balance between all the variables that need to be addressed, the technical, the social, the entertainment, the business, the creative, all in one space is a fascinating challenge. I've also done some voiceover work myself, having those types of experiences where the choices are made to what is described, what's important, what's not important, is so subjective. And I think the way things are described in film, how it is so subjective, I think is endlessly fascinating. What people value, what they want to see on screen, what they don't want to see. How do you stay immersed in a story with audio description only, not being able to access the screen at all? I think that we're just scratching the surface right now. And I think gaming is going to teach us a lot because of, again, how complex of a challenge that is. And once we can tackle something as advanced as video gameplay non-visually, with sighted audience included in the experience, I think that is going to matriculate over to descriptive video and narration to some degree, and probably will give us more choices on what's described, what's not described. And I've never seen anything like this in play, but kind of thinking about it from my end of things, if I was a fashion designer, for example, I may care very, very much about the costumes and the choices that are made there. But maybe somebody that is just interested in sitting down and just watching the movie for what it is just wants minimal involvement with the description, just enough to carry them to the next scene of the story so that they can stay immersed in what's happening. And I think eventually we're going to get to a point where that's going to be possible. In addition to that, I was the creator of a comic book for blind people called Unseen. And it appeared at the Exploratory Museum up in San Francisco in 2019 as part of a show called Self-Made. The curator was a trans person that really identified with the superhero genre. And so they were in search of all these different diverse characters that were represented in comics. I wrote Unseen prior to this, and they found me through an article in Vice magazine that appeared in 2017, 2018, I believe. They were like, we would love to have your story in our museum because we have no blind representation. And at the time, they said, we don't think there's another blind person that wrote a comic book before. And now that environment has changed. There's more and more accessible comics every day. And I think that again is that magical thinking put into place. I loved as a child Dungeons and Dragons, and I loved as a child comic books. And this would have been the 1980s when I was really immersed in these types of stories. And so when I did go blind, I was diagnosed at 15 with retinitis pigmentosa, but I didn't get blindness training until I was 28. So there was that 13-year span where I couldn't have been more ignorant about blindness. And I affectionately call them my Incredible Hulk years because I just wandered the earth angry and afraid until I figured out what I needed to do. The reason that I bring that up is because, once I did get my blindness training and I got my confidence back as a successful blind person, things like accessible comic books weren't really something that I had time to focus on. But then when the Marvel Universe took over Hollywood and this became part of our popular culture instead of fringe, I didn't realize it at the time, but I missed these stories so much. And there was a moment where I walked into the first Doctor Strange film. I was at El Capitan Theater. I had my popcorn, My son was next to me, and I'm getting ready to watch my favorite superhero. And I've got my headphones on and the descriptive video going. And about 10 minutes in, the hair on the back of my neck went straight up. And I realized for the first time in maybe 20 years, I was inside a comic book. And that feeling was so exhilarating to be able to relive these stories. Once I got home, all I wanted was more. But unfortunately, at that time, there wasn't anything for me to access. So I decided to write my own. My strategy or my thinking behind that was I wanted to create a character, and we can get into that maybe another time, but I wanted to create a character that, had a lot of power as a blind person, but I wanted to incorporate the narration into the experience. So when you listen to Unseen, you can go to unseencomic.com and check it out. You'll hear the descriptions not separate from the listening experience, but weaved into the listening experience so that both sighted and blind are getting both story and description simultaneously.
It's so cool to hear how you went from collaborating to that subjective choice of video games, and then into the flexibility of how your own comic experience, particularly with that Doctor Strange at the El Cap, all of these things seem so connected. And I can't help but think about people on the blindness spectrum who have different preferences of what kind of audio description they want, and how in the video game sector that those kinds of choices are built into the accessibility toggles, that I can choose to have certain sounds louder, or background music softer, or dialogue in subtitles, that these kinds of choices that are given as a given is now becoming more culturally popular, becoming more literally accessible. Your own experience at that theater, it's so powerful to hear that connection came back to you. And obviously the drive of that you have now, having experienced that want more that you have, that desire is really coming through clearly. I'm wondering about maybe some other specifics that you're really excited that you haven't shared yet, that you can share about how these things seem to be connecting for you, that as you get more opportunities in either the usability or disability consultant spaces, what's really something that you're looking forward to be a part of, whether or not that's started or might already have started or maybe is coming soon?
The thing that I'm most excited in experiencing is the floodgate that's going to open up with accessibility. I feel it coming. For games to take on this challenge, I think is such a promising sign of what's ahead. And I think that, the disability community should really support and encourage the progress of gaming and accessibility in a big, big way, because I think it's going to teach us a lot about how to make a lot of things accessible. And there's two things that have been heavy on my mind. One is, I don't think a lot of people realize that 1 in 5 people have some sort of permanent or temporary disability. So whether that's an injury that was debilitating at some point in their life from, a car accident or something like that, whether that's, something that they experience later in life or something that they're born with, whether that's physical, mental, 1 in 5. That's a big group of people. The thing that I think goes in conjunction with that, and I love this definition of accessibility. Accessibility is service. It's a service with compassion. So when companies are looking at their customers and their identity, and they're trying to create product that is going to give their customers the best quality experience possible, I think accessibility is really being considered so much more now than ever before. But we're just getting started. And I think that the more we see it, the more we like it, the more we want it and expect it. And I think companies see this for the first time, at least the forward thinking ones, as an opportunity instead of this obstacle to overcome. And maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but I really feel like that's the turn that's happening right now.
It's great to hear about the turn incorporating both service and compassion. this this direction is going so well. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Chad, that we haven't talked about?
I think discovering accessibility in whatever it is that we're addressing is a creative pursuit. And I think that having more artists that understand the disability space or are disabled themselves incorporated into the discussions and the decision making is really the only real way to make this work. Obviously, it requires collaboration with everyone involved. But if we as disabled people don't have a seat at the table, it's a detriment to the product.
Super clear. Thank you. Chad, you've already mentioned your website,
www.chadallenmagic.com.
and you also mentioned unseencomic.com.
Yeah, it's all singular. So unseencomic.com.
Great. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. Any social media or no?
I do have a LinkedIn, so you can check me out there. I'm usually at Accessible Comics, so you can check that out if you'd like. I am on Instagram. I use it sparingly, so forgive me if there's not updates all the time. But what I prefer is that you guys go to my website and you reach out and you send me an email and we hang out and we talk and we share each other's experiences, our love of this stuff, maybe some of the challenges that we're facing, what each other is doing, and then maybe time for a magic trick.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Chad.
Thank you.